In 1919, a killer sent a letter to the newspapers of New Orleans. He promised to murder again, but only if the city didn't play jazz that night. That evening, every jazz club was full. No one died, and the killer was never seen again. New Orleans, 1918. The Great War had just ended. Soldiers were coming home, but something else came with them. The Spanish flu, which would kill more people than the war itself. The city was crowded, chaotic, and afraid. But in the immigrant neighborhoods, especially among the Italian families who ran small grocery stores along the narrow streets, there was a different kind of fear growing. Families started sleeping with weapons under their beds. Axes, kitchen knives, anything they could grab. They locked their doors, checked their windows twice, 3 times before bed, because the attacks had begun, and they came without warning. On the morning of May 23, 1918, a grocer named Joseph Maggio and his wife, Catherine, were found in their bed. Their throats had been cut. Blood soaked the sheets. The door hadn't been forced open. There was no sign of a struggle at the entrance. But when police examined the back door, they found something strange. A panel in the door had been carefully chiseled out, just large enough for a hand to reach through and unlock it from the inside. Whoever did this took their time, and they used the Maggio's own axe. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was methodical, practiced, and it was only the beginning. Over the next year, the attacks continued. Always the same pattern, always at night, always while the victims slept. June 28, 1918, Louis Bissumer, a grocer, and his partner, Harriet Lowe, were attacked in their home. Both survived, but Harriet died weeks later from her injuries. Before she died, she gave conflicting statements about who attacked them. Some reports claimed she accused Bissumer himself. Others said she spoke of a shadowy figure. The investigation went nowhere. August 5, 1918, Joseph Romano, a barber, heard a noise in his home. He got up to investigate. His nieces heard him scream. When they rushed in, they found him collapsed, blood pouring from his head. He described his attacker as a dark-skinned, heavy-set man, but he died 2 days later without giving more details. Once again, the back door panel had been chiseled out. The police were baffled. The victims had nothing obvious in common except one thing. Most were Italian immigrants. Many ran small grocery businesses. Rumors began to spread. It's the mafia. It's a protection racket. They're being targeted. But if it was organized crime, why the bizarre method? Why chisel through doors when you could just kick them in? Why use the victim's own axe instead of bringing a weapon? And if it was personal, how did one person know so many families? March 10th, 1919, Charles Cortimiglia, his wife Rosie, and their 2-year-old daughter Mary were attacked in the night. Mary didn't survive. Charles and Rosie both lived. But what happened next made the case even stranger. Rosie accused 2 innocent men, neighbors named Irlando and Frank Giordano, of being the attackers. She insisted they were guilty. Her husband, Charles, said she was wrong, that she was lying. The Giordanos were arrested anyway. At trial, despite Charles's testimony that they were innocent, Rosie stuck to her story. The Giordanos were convicted and sentenced to death. But here's the thing. Rosie would later admit she made it all up. Why? Some say grief. Others say spite. We'll never know for sure. But while this courtroom drama played out, the real killer was still out there. And he was about to do something no one expected. He was going to write a letter. On March 13th, 1919, newspapers across New Orleans received an envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten, theatrical, signed simply, The Axeman. Let me read you part of it. Esteemed mortal of New Orleans, they have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victims. I alone know who they shall be. Now, to be exact, at 12:15, earthly time, next Tuesday night, I'm going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I'm going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe. Signed, The Axeman. Now, you have to understand what this means. This wasn't just a taunt. This was a test. The killer was giving the city a choice: play jazz or die. And New Orleans? New Orleans chose jazz. March 19th, 1919. Every dance hall in the city was packed. Bars had live bands. Families who couldn't afford to go out played records at home. Windows open, so the music spilled into the streets. People who didn't even like jazz played it anyway. The entire city became one massive, desperate concert. And that night, no one was attacked. No one died. Was it a coincidence? Or had the axeman been watching and decided to keep his word? The letter had done something the police couldn't. It had made the axeman famous, larger than life, almost mythical. Songs were written about him. The mysterious axeman's jazz became a hit. But the fear was real, and the killing wasn't over. The attacks continued sporadically through the summer and fall of 1919. August 10th, 1919. Sarah Lawman, a widow, was attacked in her sleep. She survived, but could give no description of her attacker. September 3rd, 1919. A young woman named Sarah Lawman, a different Sarah, was attacked. She also survived, and then came the final attack. October 27th, 1919. Mike Pepitone, a grocer, was asleep in his bedroom. His wife and children were in another room. She heard a struggle, a crash. When she ran in, she saw a shadowy figure fleeing through the door. Mike was dead. His head had been beaten in, not with an axe this time, but with an iron bar. And then nothing. The attack stopped. The axeman simply vanished. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. No more chiseled doors. No more midnight terror. The city waited, watched, but the axeman never returned. The police had no solid suspects. No forensic evidence that could lead to an arrest. This was 1919. Fingerprinting was still new. DNA didn't exist. Crime scene investigation was primitive at best. They had theories, dozens of them, but theories aren't convictions. There is one strange footnote to Mike Pepitone's murder. In December 1920, over a year after his death, a man named Joseph Mumford was shot and killed in Los Angeles. The shooter? Mike Pepitone's widow, Esther. She claimed Mumford was the axeman, that he had killed her husband, but she offered no proof, no explanation of how she knew. Mumford had a criminal record. He'd been in and out of prison for years. Some reports claim he was released from prison just before the attacks began and was incarcerated again during the periods when they stopped. But was he really the axeman? Or was Esther Pepitone just a grieving widow who found someone to blame? We'll never know. Mumford is dead. Esther served 3 years for manslaughter and never spoke about it again. And the axeman? He was never seen, never caught, never identified. So who, or what, was the axeman of New Orleans? Let's break down the 3 main theories. The most straightforward explanation: this was one person, a serial killer with a pattern. He targeted Italian grocers, maybe out of personal grudge, maybe out of prejudice, maybe because they were vulnerable and he knew their routines. The chiseled door panels suggest someone with carpentry or construction skills, someone who understood how doors worked, someone patient. The use of the victim's own weapons suggests he didn't want to be caught with evidence. Or maybe it was symbolic, using their tools against them. And the letter? Maybe just a narcissistic killer enjoying the attention. But there are problems with this theory. If it were one person, why did the attacks vary so much? Different weapons, different levels of violence. Some victims survived, some didn't. And why did it stop so suddenly? Did the killer die, move away, get arrested for something else? We don't know. Some investigators believe the attacks were connected to organized crime. In 1919, New Orleans had a significant mafia presence. Extortion and protection rackets were common, especially targeting Italian business owners who were afraid to go to the police. Maybe the axeman attacks were a way to enforce payment, to send a message. But again, why the elaborate method? Mafia hits were usually quick, public, and sent a clear message. This was different, secretive, almost ritualistic. And the jazz letter? That doesn't fit the mafia's style at all. So while organized crime might have been involved in some of the violence in New Orleans at the time, most experts don't believe the axeman was a mob enforcer. Here's the most unsettling theory. What if there were no single axeman? What if the attacks were committed by different people, and the media and public fear created the myth of one killer? Think about it. New Orleans in 1918 to 1919 was a city on edge. War, disease, Poverty, racial tension. When the first attacks happened, the newspaper sensationalized them. The public panicked. And maybe, just maybe, other people saw an opportunity. Domestic violence disguised as an Axeman attack. Robberies gone wrong. Personal grudges. The chiseled door became a signature that anyone could copy. And the letter? It could have been written by anyone. A prankster. A journalist looking for a story. Or yes, the actual killer, if there's just one. This theory suggests that the Axeman was less a man and more an idea. A monster the city created out of fear. So what do you believe? Was the Axeman a man with an axe and a plan? A mobster sending a bloody message? Or was he a myth, born from panic and violence in a city that desperately needed someone to blame? The truth is, we'll probably never know. The case files are incomplete. The witnesses are long dead. And the Axeman, whoever he was, took his secrets to the grave. But here's what we do know. For over a year, the city of New Orleans lived in terror. Families slept with weapons. Doors were locked and double-checked. And one night, an entire city played jazz to stay alive. Whether that saved them or not, that's up to you to decide. The Axeman of New Orleans remains one of the most bizarre and chilling unsolved cases in American history. A killer who struck without warning, who demanded jazz, who vanished without a trace. So let me ask you this. If you lived in New Orleans on that night, in March 1919, would you have played jazz? Drop your theory in the comments. Was the Axeman real? Was it one person or many? And do you think Esther Pepitone killed the right man? If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's darkest mysteries, hit that like button and subscribe for more true crime stories. And remember, lock your doors tonight.